I want to tell you what happened to me tonight. And I'm going to tell you a little story, and I want you to stick with me on this one, because I really believe, regardless of who you are or what station you're at in life, I believe this could apply to you. I was out driving Uber tonight, and I picked up a young girl. She's about 17, possibly 18 years old, and being the time of year that it is, she's about to graduate. In fact, she graduates next Friday, a week from yesterday. And invariably, the conversation came up, so what's next? And she said, well, I'm going to go to college. I said, well, that's wonderful. What are you thinking about doing? She goes, well, I'd like to do something in the medical field. I said, well, it's a pretty broad field. Do you have any idea how you're going to narrow that down? She goes, well, I've always thought about nursing. I said, well, that's a wonderful field. You don't sound very sure about it. And she said, well, it kind of scares me. I said, well, why is that? She goes, well, it's heavy. It's a heavy decision for me because I'm afraid it's the type of job that a mistake could be disastrous. I said, yeah, it is. You're right. It could be. So she continued by saying, so I don't know. I said, well, I don't know about that. It sounds like you do know. It sounds like you want to be a nurse. She goes, well, I do want to be a nurse, but it makes me nervous. And it kind of froze right there for a minute. And I broke the silence. It was kind of an uncomfortable silence. I said, well, let me ask you another question. Let's just suppose you skip it and you decide not to be a nurse because of this one mistake that could be disastrous. Over the next 30, 35, 40 years, how many thousands of people are you not going to help because you decided to skip it because of the possibility that you could make one mistake? I said, how many thousands of people are not going to get the benefit of coming in contact with you because you never showed up? Now, there was a moment of silence, and all of a sudden I heard this little sniffling in the back of the car, and I look up in my rearview mirror. I can see her in the back, and she's beginning to cry. Of course, my first thought is, oh, shit, what have I done? Damn it, now I've got an 18-year-old girl crying in the back of my car. This is not shaping up to be the ride that I had envisioned. So I tried to lighten the mood. I said, you know what, honey, it's not that big of a deal. You got all summer. There's plenty of time to decide. She cut me off mid-sentence. She goes, no, you're absolutely right. She said, I've always known I was going to be a nurse, always. I said, always? She said, I've been putting Band-Aids on my dolls since I was 5 years old. I have always known that this is the path for me. I said, well, that's wonderful. I said, do you have any idea how far ahead of your contemporaries that puts you, actually knowing at the young age of 17, 18 years old what your path is? She said, Ron, I guess you're right. I said, I'm right. I said, I know I'm right. You are way ahead of your contemporaries. And I don't know if it's going to stick. 2-3 minutes later, we pulled up. She very graciously thanked me over and over again. I think it's going to stick. I think there was a moment. And, it occurred to me as I was talking to her about this that, I have a lot of theories, and I'm certainly not afraid to give my theories out to anybody who's willing to listen, but this is a lot more than a theory for me, all right? On this particular matter, or I should say on this particular issue, I consider myself to be a subject matter expert. And let me explain what I mean. I'm talking about the difference between making a decision, the kind of decision, not where you're going to have, what you're going to have for dinner, or what movie you're going to watch, but a life-changing decision. The kind of decision that is going to impact the rest of your life. The kind of decision that's going to give you a life where long after you're gone, people will know that you came this way. You're going to live a life that influences others, I should say, positively affects others. And when you're gone, you will have left your mark. People will know you came this way. When it comes down to these kind of decisions, people have two choices. You can either make this decision with your head, or you can make this decision with your heart. And I have done both. Let me tell you what I mean. Back in around 1998, maybe it was early 1999, I was living in Arvada, Colorado, and it was the deepest part of winter. It was either late January, early February. It was that time of year when it's pitch black by 5:30 p.m. It's 10 degrees. The snow and the ice crackle underneath your feet everywhere you walk. You have to be careful going through the parking lot so you don't slip and fall. It's just a horrible time of year for me, and I was in a horrible place. And I was in a supermarket, and I was looking in the magazine section, and I came across a copy of Rodell's Scuba Diving magazine. I picked it up. I'm flipping through and admiring all the tropical beach scenes, the warm, clear water, and I came across an ad right in the middle, right on the seam in the middle of the magazine, and I will never forget the header, not until the day I die. The header said, "Paychecks in Paradise." And it just blew my hair back when I read it. It was cold, it was dark, it was winter in Colorado. And I've got this magazine open, and there's a banner across this 2-page ad that says, "Earn Paychecks in Paradise." Now, a couple of things could have happened. I could have closed up that magazine, walked around the store for the next 10, 15 minutes thinking about it. But let me tell you what that would have eventually led to. Eventually, I would have set the magazine down, grabbed the rest of my purchases, checked out, and left. Nothing would have came of it. What I did is I put my basket down. I didn't make the rest of my purchases. I took that magazine. I went directly to the checkout girl, gave her my money, and left. What I did is within seconds of having the idea, I married that idea with an action. The idea being I want to earn paychecks in paradise. The action being grabbing that magazine, proceeding directly to checkout, buying it, and leaving. Well, next day I had off from work. I took that magazine, I should say, took it into the local dive shop, the nearest one to my house, opened it up on the counter and said, "This is what I want. Right here." I turned the magazine around. I said, "This is what I want." And 9 months later, I was, in fact, a dive master. I was a professional scuba diver. I'd left Colorado. I was living in the Florida Keys, and I was working on a boat, guiding divers around some of the most pristine reefs that North America has to offer. And I did something like that, or very similar to that, for the next decade of my life. And all of that happened on an impulse. One impulse. I had an idea, what I wanted to do. I instantly married that idea with an action. I pursued it, and I lived the next decade a very, very happy man doing what I loved. Now, I started thinking 10 years down the road. People started talking to me, and I made the mistake of listening, and I started thinking, I can't keep doing this forever. It's time to grow up. Time to get a grown-up job. Time to come back into the world. Make a proper living, join the adults, welcome to society, join the grind. So I became an entirely different kind of person. All of a sudden I became analytical. I became an analyzer. I became the guy who couldn't do anything without making a pros and cons list for everything, every decision I made, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to work, where I'm going to live. Everything became, let me get my pen, my pencil, let me get a piece of paper, and let me make out a list, the pros and the cons of every move I make. This coming from a guy who decided a decade of his life on an impulse buy at a supermarket in Colorado. Now I'm doing a pro and con list for every single move that I make. And let me tell you a couple of things about that. Number one, whenever you fill out a pros and cons list, I promise you there's always going to be more cons. There's always going to be more cons. I guarantee you. And number two, I started analyzing everything, making sure the numbers worked. And I came to develop a condition that Mel Robbins, the motivational speaker, personal growth and development coach, coined. She calls it analysis paralysis. And I've been living with it for a decade or more, 12, 13 years ever since then. I have a condition called analysis paralysis. I'm so busy analyzing that I never actually have time to do anything. I'm too busy analyzing it. So I've done both. I've made the decision with my heart, and I've made the decision with my head. I am an expert on both, and I'm here to tell you, and I say it all the time, your head is for math, remembering phone numbers, remembering how to convert kilograms to pounds, whatever it is you use it for, the order to turn on the buttons at work, the paperwork when you're done, that is what your head is for. But when it comes down to progress, when it comes down to courage and adventure, things of this nature, that is not what your head is for. You have got to bring a heart into that arena. When you enter the arena of progress, you have got to bring a heart with you, because your head is designed to protect you from harm, discomfort, things of this nature. That's what your head is for. That is how we have managed to stay alive for millions of years, to propagate the species and bring our children to bear, our mind keeping us out of danger. Well, we're not in a lot of danger these days. There's no more saber-toothed tigers. There's nothing like that. But what we do have is discomfort, pain, things of that nature. Your brain is going to try to protect you from that. It's going to try to keep you from doing that. And if you're going to progress, if you're going to change, you have to suffer. And your brain will not allow you to suffer. It will do anything and everything it possibly can to talk you out of it. It's what it was doing to this girl who was in my car. She had decided to scrap a career that she had known she wanted since she was 5 years old, because her brain had talked her out of it. Okay? And I've let my brain do the same thing on more occasions than I can count. And again, I've read this quote to you before. I'm going to read it again. I think it's that important. We're talking about progress. We're talking about moving forward, doing that daring thing. Whatever there be of progress in life comes not through adaptation. Okay, adapting to your situation is not progress. It is not change. It is not daring. It is not adventuresome. Adapting to your situations is not progress. Whatever there be of progress in life comes not through adaptation, but through daring. It comes through obeying the blind urge. And I cannot stress that enough. It's become a huge factor in my life, and I don't believe that I'm alone in that. So that's it. That's what I wanted to get out. It happened tonight. I wanted to get that out for you. It's important. I believe it's something that everybody needs to hear. And if nothing, I need to say it, because I need to hear it. I need to hear it over and over. And I say these things to myself over and over. Now I'm saying them to you. So I hope that you got something out of this. You might find yourself in a similar situation. Maybe you are suffering from analysis paralysis. Maybe you can't get past your pros and cons list. There's always going to be more cons. I promise you that. Whatever you're analyzing now, if you decide to scrap it and move on to something new, I promise you, when you sit down and do a pro and cons list on the new endeavor, there's going to be more cons. There will always be more cons. So I'm going to end it. I hope you liked the video. If I said something that interested you, said something that you liked, go down below, give me a like, subscribe to my page. There's going to be videos like this coming more and more often. So I'd like to have some subscribers on my YouTube page. I would like for you to like it. I would especially like for you to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Am I right? Did this help? Did it not help? I'd like to know. I'm going to always be trying to improve my page. And your feedback is instrumental in that. It's key, in fact. So, well, it's about 2:15 in the morning my time, so I am going to shuffle off to bed. But I wanted to get that out there for you. I hope you enjoyed it.